The United States experienced two shooting incidents over the weekend, resulting in at least 5 deaths and 16 injuries, raising nationwide concerns about gun violence and the safety of religious sites. On the evening of September 27th, a gunman fired on a crowd from a docked boat outside the American Fish Company waterfront bar in Southport, North Carolina, killing 3 people and injuring 8, mostly tourists. The suspect, Nigel Edge, aged 40, a former Marine Corps soldier and Purple Heart recipient, was arrested by the Coast Guard at a nearby dock 30 minutes later, charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder and other offenses. Police described the attack as highly premeditated, with most victims being acquaintances, and the motive likely related to personal disputes. On the morning of September 28th, a gunman drove a truck into the entrance of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Grand Blanc, Michigan, during a worship service, then opened fire with an AR-15 rifle on approximately 150 congregants and set the building ablaze. The incident left 2 dead and 8 injured, with both gunshot and burn wounds, and the church was severely damaged. The suspect, Thomas Jacob Sanford, aged 40, a former Marine Corps soldier from the Iraq War, was killed during a shootout with police. The FBI's initial investigation suggests the motive may involve personal psychological issues. Governor Gretchen Whitmer called violence at places of worship unacceptable. Both suspects had military backgrounds and mental health issues, highlighting insufficient support for veterans. President Trump condemned the attacks as targeting Christians, while Democrats pushed for gun control debates. The FBI is thoroughly investigating, and the nation is in mourning. A few days ago, while discussing the assassination of Charlie Kirk, I criticized the U.S. government for failing to strengthen gun control, predicting more such tragedies. Kirk himself visited South Korea and acknowledged that gun bans could enhance safety, yet he supported unrestricted gun ownership for the sake of so-called American traditional values. I don't know what he meant by American traditional values, whether it's cowboys settling disputes with shootouts or farmers banding together to fight the government with guns. These are dull and not good traditions. In the information age, the U.S., as a highly modernized nation with robust law enforcement, has no reason to rely on citizens carrying guns for safety. If the government truly intends to use force against ordinary people, whether citizens are armed will not change the outcome. After Kirk's assassination, Trump and the right portrayed him as an American hero, blaming the left for inciting hatred that led to the tragedy, completely ignoring that the gunman came from a typical MAGA family. His reason for killing Kirk may be linked to issues with his bisexual partner. In a country with widespread gun ownership, people might resort to mass killing over trivial reasons, leading to catastrophic consequences. After the North Carolina bar shooting, conservatives blamed Democrats for strict gun control, claiming the ban on firearms in bars left people defenseless against the gunman. They even accused veterans of having violent tendencies due to leftist incitement. Their shamelessness is shocking. If their brains still worked, they'd realize that allowing guns in crowded places like bars would mean the gunman wouldn't need to shoot from a boat. He could fire inside, causing even greater casualties. Who caused veterans mental distress? Isn't it the U.S. government's decades-long wars, leaving soldiers with battlefield trauma and no mental health support after discharge? These soldiers fought for the U.S., yet MAGA criticizes them for war-related trauma. Without them, would MAGA supporters go to the front lines to ensure America's greatness? The issues of gun and drug proliferation in the U.S. are not hard to solve. It requires government accountability and politicians setting aside selfish interests. Everyone knows the National Rifle Association and similar interest groups wield immense lobbying power, profiting massively from guns. The U.S., a modern nation with abundant expertise, can easily calculate the harms of gun ownership. The safety benefits of gun bans are well proven in East Asian countries like China, South Korea, Japan, and Singapore. Are there safer places in the world? Yet, the reality in the U.S. is that politicians, swayed by dirty money, disregard citizens' lives and property, fabricating excuses for gun interest groups and touting the benefits of gun ownership. Most of these politicians' children attend elite schools, and their families frequent high-security venues, oblivious to the helplessness and anger of ordinary people facing shootings in churches or schools. As for fentanyl plaguing U.S. society, adopting China's regulatory system could work, or the U.S. could even outsource management to China. The root cause of widespread psychotropic drug abuse lies in the profit-driven chain of pharmaceutical companies, hospitals, and doctors. In terms of hard power, U.S. law enforcement, including the DEA and local police, has immense strength. They could control fentanyl sources as strictly as China does, with no shortage of funds or manpower. However, pharmaceutical companies and doctors form a distorted profit chain. Most addictions stem not from street drugs, but from overprescribed medications. Once addicted, people lack legal means to obtain drugs and turn to dealers for relief. The core issue is that the U.S. is a nation controlled by a few interest groups that dominate key resources, much like Wall Street's financial elites, with vast social influence. The government often fails to regulate them, instead acting as their proxy. Laughably, ordinary Americans still debate guns and drugs from a so-called civil rights perspective. Perhaps only when they or their loved ones fall victim will they recognize the harms of guns and drugs and awaken from this foolish obsession. As I said in previous videos, today's U.S. is rife with extreme ideologies, with clowns taking the stage one after another. Perhaps China doesn't need to defeat the U.S. As long as Chinese people live and work steadily without major mistakes, the U.S. will collapse under the antics of these clowns.